What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Ghost in Zone 1 live from the 210 all day, every day. And I got a little, maybe, I guess you could say it's just me ranting. It's just the old man yelling at the cloud situation. But honestly, I'm tired of it. I know a good amount of people in my local community and everything in the San Antonio area where we're kind of fed up with the whole situation and how things are running with the Yu-Gi-Oh metagame as a whole. So I'm going to be breaking it down, probably why things are the way they are, and hopefully I can provide maybe my solution to the whole situation. And let me know what you guys think. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, so I got a little PowerPoint presentation, I guess you can call it that. Talking about like the current state of Yu-Gi-Oh a little bit. If you've been living like under like a rock or something or in a cave, I don't know where the hell y'all. I don't know your home situation, but pretty much all my gripes with the format right now with Yu-Gi-Oh and everything, or just the state of the game as a whole. And by the way, let me know how I sound. I got a new mic going on here and everything, so let me know how that goes. Really excited about that. Had to learn how to all about sound design within like a day. So, anyways, talking about the game of Yu-Gi-Oh. First I want to ask the question: why have we been having so many Tier Zero formats? I haven't liked this, like how just the trends of this game has been going. We went from Tier Zero with Shizu tier to cash format, which was pretty much, I think that was just made just to counter tier, because tier was just so incredibly powerful that there wasn't really much to counter it besides, I mean, the usual hand traps that are still good today. And now we're at Year of Fire. Yeah, but I want to ask everyone, like, what is going on? Are they not testing the cards? Are they not seeing something that we as players are seeing beforehand? Like, I really don't know like the whole situation of how this even happens in the first place, because I like to think once we hit a Tier Zero format, I think we fail as a game, because when you look at other games, like the main reason why we play games and everything, at least for me and a good majority of my friends that I know and everything that I care about and everything, we would like to see a lot of variety. I'm not even gonna get to that point yet, but that's for like a later slide and everything. But I don't really like Tier Zeros. I don't see the whole point of Tier Zeros. I think if it's something is Tier Zero, something has to be done incredibly fast or soon to prevent such situations like that to occur in the first place, and I'll explain why. Next up, so what I want to say is, what makes a format good then? When you're thinking of things like that, like trying to make something different than Tier Zero. One of my first points, I think this is the biggest one, is variety in the metagame. A good mix of Tier 1, Tier 2 decks that can compete. When you look at some of the best formats that we currently had in history, you can say things like Edison. There's like, 30 different decks that are good. Usually if you can work with a certain deck, and for a good amount of time, I think you would see the fruits of your labor, the fruits of you topping, just because you put the amount of time and effort into these decks to win. You can look at the other formats. Goat. Yes, there are different types of decks, but it usually comes down to, can you beat chaos? You can look at hat format. There was a lot of decks over there. I prefer Tengu plant format. I'm surprised that got a lot of heat from Konami themselves. Not heat. I mean, like, heat as in like hype. I like Tengu Plan. There was a lot of decks involved during that format. There was X Sabers. There was Six Sams. This is just off the top of my head from what I remember. I think that Quick Draw Synchron was still around, even though like there was like 31 ofs. Agents was around. Like, there was a lot of good decks. To also like tie into my first point and everything, seeing those matchups, like those different type of matchups, like looking at Tengu Plant when you're running those like Quick Draw Dandy, Reborn Tengu type stuff, and they had to go against like Gravekeepers or TG Stun. You have to play a certain way. You have to play the right cards, and if you don't, you can really lose like momentum, and that gives up the game. Seeing things like that, I think is pretty cool. Another point I want to make on variety, this is much like I kind of want to make this like little comparison with how fighting games are done, because obviously I play fighting games, of course, but or like even just other games as well, like shooters and all that, where not everybody wants to run the same thing. Especially like maybe like they have a what is it called, a loadout, or they have a favorite character. Not everyone plays the same thing. If you play the same thing, it's usually because the game is super unbalanced, or it's the best like character to use to win, like, I don't know, like competitions, stuff like that. For a lot of those pros that say, oh, if it has to be a tier 0 metas like this, oh, they showed the skill to be able to play, and it shows that I'm the best player. I mean, it's the best player for that match or that matchup. Oh, like playing Snake Eye against Snake Eye. Okay, not everyone's gonna wants to do that. Not everyone wants to play the same thing over and 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 over again. Like, no one wants to do that. That's not fun. That's not fun. That there's no. If you wanted to play something like that where you're playing the same character, like, and just going head to head, I think there's like a. Is there even a game for that? I think formats where there's a lot of variety and you're able to play and like excel in those meta games. I think it's not like me saying, oh yeah, my respect. Oh, Tana, you don't have my respect. Yeah, like those people that sit on the couch and say that. But like, I feel there's a lot less argument to say that you're not good at this format or something like that. Just because I feel if you win a metagame like that, what's the word? I'm trying to find the words here. You win formats like that, it looks like you prepared as well as you could, and you excelled because you prepared. Just because you have it's like a fighting game. You have to prepare for. I mean, if you're playing a balanced fighting game, you have to prepare for those random characters that could just come out of nowhere. And if someone's like really good and puts the time in, they can knock you off your game. And I think that should be the case here. The next point, counterplay is rewarded. So this more goes along the lines of like deck building correctly and using the right cards for the format. It also ties in the fact of like, there's 40 cards in a deck. There's a reason why there's 40 cards in the deck, because there's a 1 out of 40 chance of you drawing the right card if your whole deck was full of 1-uns. Pretty much as a game of chance, but if you play your cards right, usually if you were skilled enough to play your cards at the right time, at the right moments, while playing around certain things, you should be able to win. Granted, a lot of this format, I don't think we see a lot of that as of right now, but hopefully in the future that is able to change. The third point, this isn't the biggest one, but I feel most of the time it's right, especially in those older formats. Like, blowout cards are less viable and able to play around them. My biggest gripe, I think, in the older formats, I tell my friends this, like in my Discord and everything, we'll play like old formats and stuff like that. Edison, my problem card in that format, which I think shouldn't belong in that format whatsoever, is Cold Wave. Oh, excuse me. Cold Wave, I hate that card so much. You just activate it, I think it started main phase 1, and you just turn off spells and traps. Like, that card is really strong, but granted, there are not only ways around it in a sense, but you also need to know in Edison there's a lot of back row and a lot of powerful back row that you need to find a way to play around, and sometimes you just don't have the resources to even play around in the first place. So looking at cards now in today's format, you can see cards like evenly matched not being that big of an issue. Lightning Storm doesn't do too much. Regeki's at 3. Like, come on, Regeki was banned for so long, and it's just this format feels like really bad. And like, look at the examples too, like Snatch Steal in older formats was not that good. Delinquent Duo, it was used in GOAT. That one could cause issues, but back then it wasn't that bad. Usually just wanted to get rid of like mostly the powerful monsters that were involved, or even the power spells. Maxi, back then Maxi was, when it first started, Maxi was not the most hated insect in the game. Looking at Maxi now, if we had it, just play Master Duel. You hate the goddamn card. You want it out of the game entirely. But that's like a whole different discussion itself. So looking at this format, the one we're currently in right now, as of March 2024. Number 1, advantage is too much when playing a fire deck. When if you resolve Snake Eyes Ash or Wanted, you are getting so much card advantage compared to every other deck that doesn't use those cards. When you compare it to something like Snake Eyes Ash or Wanted, even if you do hit the right card, sometimes they still haven't. It's kind of like the whole Alistair argument where you could hit Meltdown, but then if they already have Alistair, they can still normal some Alistair go crazy, or even if you hit Alistair, it's already too late because they already have Invocation, and that's how you get screwed in the first place. But it's something like that where sometimes even having the right set of hand traps and you still won't be able to win. Alright, so point number 2, other decks right now are not enough to compete. Yeah, I mean, look at Voiceless Voice or Branded. I think those are probably the next best rogue decks. They can only do so much. Voiceless Voice can put up a negate. They can have their, the continuous trap? I forgot what it's called. It's like Radiance or something like that. It's just not enough. Both these decks are using Super Poly. I don't even think that's like a true answer to most decks. I think it's like a cheap cop out and everything. Super Poly honestly shouldn't even be in the format. I really hate that card. I just don't like not being able to respond to a card. I think that's just bad, but that's my opinion. But even with all that, it's still not enough. It's still not enough to beat a lot of these fire decks. Looking at my point number 3, even some of the power cards in this format just aren't strong enough. I think I mentioned that a little bit earlier with Evenly Match and Triple T. Sometimes those cards are just not enough. And you also have to keep in mind, these power cards are also being used by these fire decks that if you play into them, you're not only getting blown out by just some of these power cards, you're getting blown out by just the main engine itself. Number 4, fire decks can still run tons of hand traps and power cards. I mean, I could have combined them and everything. But looking at a lot of the fire decks that are being run right now, I think Snake Eyes itself can run up to 12 hand traps, and they don't care. They literally don't care. I mean, heck, if you use hand traps on Snake Eyes, usually they can turn it into like a Charmer play, and then they just link back up into like a Promethean Princess. It's ridiculous, man. So how are we going to fix this format? There's a lot of options. I'll mention a few that I think could realistically happen. I have one major one, which is just like a future ban list. This is what I was thinking, because I do want to give the deck like a fair chance to compete in this metagame, even though we're seeing too much of it in a lot of the YCS that are currently going on. I think YCS Sydney just finished up, and then a lot of the other regionals for this, March 10th, Mario Day weekend. And a lot of the top like winning performances of what's winning right now, it's Snake Eyes. It's Fire King Snake Eyes. Like, that's all we're seeing. We'll see a fringe like rogue deck here or there, but it's not too many. But this is my take on like a potential ban list that could be coming up, either as an emergency ban list or maybe the next one we get. I hope that's not the case. I hope something sooner rather than later. But yeah, here it is. So we'll have Forbidden. The best change would be, this is just mostly impacting like fire stuff. I'm not gonna talk about like, let me not break into Konami real quick and just give y'all like the full ban list. I'll do that at a later time. They up security, that's why. Alright, so let's look at this ban list I got going on. So 1 Forbidden, 3 limits, 1 semi-limit. So we'll start with the semi-limit. So Bonfire, put that to 2. We already have cards like this, and they're on the ban list for a reason. We have Reinforcement of the Army. That is at 1. Semi-limits for Bonfire, put it at 2. I understand why it wouldn't hit the ban list. But, like, come on. There's a difference between, like, putting out cards to sell and then making stuff like this. This is just pushing it way too much. It honestly feels scummy the way it's being done. Especially, like, now with the way Fire Kings... if you're running, like, a fire deck, you're at the top, like, cream of the crop right there. Put it at 2. Put it at 2. I don't see why. Just hit the consistency of the deck. I don't see a big issue with that. When you look at limits, so Snake Eyes Ash. If you put Snake Eyes Ash to 1, if this card gets played, once it hits the field, you know if you stop that card, you usually have a better chance of your opponent not continuing their plays. So the big takeaway I want to make is I want the deck to be hurt, but I don't want to completely like destroy it. Like, it doesn't need to be destroyed. There are ways where we can fix this deck without dismantling it as a whole. The biggest things I do want to hit is the grind game. That is why Promethean Princess is at 1, because once Promethean Princess hits the field, it's usually very hard to out. you would usually have to get rid of it in the graveyard. Yeah, I think that's the best way, because one, you can like DD Crow it. I've been taking in Foolish. I think it's Foolish Return, the one that targets and then shuffle it back to the deck. I think that's pretty good. I think that's gonna see more play. Ghost Bell usually stops it, but you're gonna have to prevent it from continuously hitting the field. The spell card, Original Sinful Spoils. That's a pretty good big combo piece. It is susceptible to Ash. Usually, if that resolves, I mean, they're gonna go full combo. They'll be able to go into anything. It can go into Ash. It can go into Populous. Is that Populous? Poplar. Honestly, if you hit that card, I think the consistency just goes way down. And I think that's pretty good. At least it'll open up some more plays. It makes the deck more fragile. Looking at the ban to 1-for-1, this is another, like, one of the many ways to get Ash on the field or any of the other level 1s out on the field. If you kind of think about it, it's another copy of Bonfire, preventing so many like cards to get these 1-card starters out. I think is pretty good and should help with make your hand traps a little bit more viable, at least against this deck. You can also think about like other banless takes. Like, this isn't like surefire, like this is what should happen and everything. You can also like change up like a lot of the ratios and everything. Maybe you want to limit Bonfire to 1. Maybe you can ban Snake Eyes Ash because it's giving too much card advantage. You can ban the spell card. That's been the most popular one. The banning of Original Sinful Spoils, being able to send any face-up card just to get a level 1 fire. That also hurts other decks as well, like Rescue Ace and all that. So that's gonna cause some issues right there. I really do think the limit of Promethean Princess probably should happen. I mean, when we first started, everyone was using 2, and then they cut it to 1, realizing you only need 1 in the first place. So maybe I'm just crazy. I don't know. 1-for-1 might be a little bit too extreme, but I think it'll be fine. But other than that, y'all, I just want to remind y'all again, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content in the near future. Hopefully I'll get that out to you guys as soon as possible, and hopefully this is coming out the day of spring break, so hopefully everyone has a good spring break. Go find a shark, punch it in the face, and go have a good one. And as a reminder, it's your boy Ghost01, and I hope you guys have a great spring break. Catch y'all later. Peace.